About 2.5 months ago, we took a look at the Into the Pit story of the Fazbear Frights graphic novel, and it was very strange. The art for the story is not great, but it was at least passable, and like the other FNAF graphic novels, the story was fairly inconsistent and wasn't really faithful to the original story. You guys really liked that video, and I planned on making a part 2 looking at the other two stories, but because of Tales from the Pizzaplex, The Beginning of School, and more theories I needed to make, my second look at the Fazbear Frights graphic novel got pushed back. But now I'm on winter break, so I have a lot more time to work on videos. So I thought now was time to check out interesting details, some lore related, and also some inconsistencies that I noticed in both the To Be Beautiful and Out of Stock stories of the Fazbear Frights graphic novel. I'll probably be doing a video on the Security Breach Files book soon enough, so stay tuned for that. And by the time this video is going out, the release of the 4th Tales from the Pizzaplex book, Some Mechanophobia, has already come. The book is already out, and I will be doing summaries on each story in the book, and most likely some theories as well. But I think now it's time to look at the graphic novel versions of To Be Beautiful and Out of Stock. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Make me a hero, someone to turn to and rely on their will to win. Make me a hero who puts up a fight both day and night. Oh.
Number 1. At the beginning of the story, Sarah is watching a commercial or show or something for this thing called Mrs. Mix and Match, and Mrs. Mix and Match has a similar design to Elizabeth, with a bow tie in her blonde hair and pink clothes, and it makes sense since the story is about a character who is reminiscent of Baby, despite not actually being Elizabeth herself. The name Mrs. Mix and Match may also be a reference to Mangle, since Mangle is an animatronic that kids basically mixed and matched, and Elizabeth herself has a Mangle toy in her bedroom. Also, I gotta say, the art in the To Be Beautiful chapter of this book looks a bit weird, but it is decent. But looking at this in comparison to Out of Stock, oh boy, you should prepare yourselves if you haven't seen it yet. Number 2. On page 72, Sarah is complaining about how she looks, and she thinks about getting her eyebrows done professionally because her small tweezers are losing the battle against the unibrow. The funny thing about this is that on the very same page, the illustrations show no sign of a unibrow whatsoever. In fact, her eyebrows are really small and completely separated from each other. Obviously not an important detail, but that's what the series is for, looking at the smaller details, and not all of these details are lore related. Number 3. Between page 86 and 87, Sarah's outfit strangely changes despite it being the same day. Sarah's hoodie starts off green, but as she's walking home, it's suddenly blue. Strangely, the hoodie strings also aren't connected to the hood, which is where they're supposed to connect since the strings are literally to tighten the hood. It's a bit weird. Also, when she starts walking home, she has her books in her hands and isn't wearing her backpack. But when passing the junkyard, she's holding nothing and wearing her backpack. Number 4. Sarah continuously thinks about how perfect the so-called beautifuls are, and one of the things she thinks about them is that they can eat as much ice cream as they want and won't gain an ounce. At this moment, she actually walks past an ice cream shop or stand or something. This wouldn't be much on its own, but it's interesting that ice cream is mentioned in a story about Eleanor, who's very reminiscent of Baby. Number 5. Speaking of Eleanor, when Sarah is walking past the junkyard, she finds Eleanor in the trunk of a car. The funny thing about this is that Eleanor's arm is sticking out of the trunk, but even though Sarah is standing right next to the car in the next panel, in the prior panels, neither the car nor the hand are shown. On top of that, once the car is shown, it is red, but in a panel on the next page, it changes to gray. Oh, and the license plate reads 012220, a very realistic license, and it becomes a little bit more important later on. Number 6. In the second panel of page 108, the lines are given to the wrong people. Mason says hi to Sarah, and then somehow the line of "oh hi" comes from Mason. However, it's clearly meant to be a line by Sarah. Then the line comes from Sarah asking Mason out, but it's actually meant to be Mason asking Sarah out, as seen in the original story and by the panels later on in the page. It's a mistake, but honestly I don't know how they messed it up. It's probably just another case of Scholastic rushing the artist and stuff, which is why the art in the book isn't exactly the best, but you wouldn't think an error like this would slip under their radar. Number 7. When Sarah loses the necklace and transforms into the metal that she was truly made of all along, we actually see that one of the objects in her body is a license plate. But not just any license plate, the very same one from the car that Sarah found Eleanor in. This implies that Eleanor actually got the parts for Sarah from the junkyard she was found at. This isn't really a shock, but it seems to be confirmation. Number 8. I have to say, I really like the end of the story, not just in the original book, but I like how it's done here. Sarah's body doesn't change into scraps immediately, she slowly transforms more and more, and as she does, the font of her lines changed into a more robotic looking text, eventually getting more and more distorted until it's so distorted that we can't even read it. I think this part of the story was done really well, and I feel like it could be cool if they were to utilize this kind of style a bit more in the future. Number 9. With all that being said, there is one final inconsistency in To Be Beautiful story of the book. Eleanor is wearing the remnant pendant, but it's not actually showing on the panel until she points it out, even though it's there the entire time. It kind of just pops into existence. So those are all the things to go over in the To Be Beautiful story of the Fazbear Frights graphic novel. However, there's more stuff to go over in the Out of Stock story, so let's get started on that right now. Number 10. Immediately, I have to comment on the art in Out of Stock. What the f*** is this? Now, it's no disrespect to the artists themselves. I don't think I could have made a graphic novel any better than this, but shouldn't a graphic novel's art be good? Because, I'm sorry, but this isn't. Everyone's face looks like the morphed Mario face from Mario 64. Number 11. The out-of-stock story in this graphic novel is actually missing some fragments. The graphic novel story begins like a 1/12 of the way through the original story and skips out on some stuff. In all fairness, the stuff it skips isn't really important, as everything is basically established already by the beginning of the story in the graphic novel, so it's not a big deal, it's just a little weird. Number 12. Another case of really weird art. On page 137, Oscar is searching for his friends in a massive line at the Emporium, and he has this really funny look on his face. But in the background, instead of actual people being in the line, the farther away it gets, the more people just become black blobs of nothing. I get that it's not necessary to put detail when they're so far in the background, but these aren't even people, bro. At the bottom of the page, we also see Oscar, Raj, and Isaac. Why do they look like this? There's a bunch of other stuff with the quality of the art in the story, but I'm not going to keep talking about that because there's so much. But, I mean, I will mention it one more time, at number 13. So guys, here is the Plushtrap Chaser. What the f*** is this? I really just don't know how they think that this design for the Plushtrap Chaser was okay. He literally looks like he's high on cocaine. It doesn't make sense because the Plushtrap Chaser is literally shown on the cover of this book, yet this thing is meant to be the same character? I don't really get how that makes any sense. They look nothing alike. In the graphic novel, his eyes are tiny, he's way too chubby, and his jaw isn't disconnected from his head. There's a bunch more wrong with him too. Everything is wrong with this. Also, what is with the way that Oscar looks at the bottom of this stage? What's that above his lip? Looks almost like the mustache of Kanye West's idol. Number 14. When Oscar and his friends get the Plushtrap Chaser and find that the eyes and teeth seem human, Raj touches the eyeball and claims that it's squishy. Looking at the illustration, we see that something from the eye is now on his finger. Now, I don't know about you, but I have touched my eyeball before. And when you touch an eyeball, jizz doesn't come off of it. Nothing comes off. Your finger may be a bit moist, but eyes don't jizz on your finger when you touch them. Number 15. When Oscar, Raj, and Isaac are trying to pry open the mouth of the Plushtrap Chaser, or whatever monstrosity this thing is, the graphic novel shows them using a screwdriver. However, in the original story, they use a butter knife. The weird thing about this is that the following lines in the graphic novel remain the same as the original book, but still refer to it as a knife, despite the art showing it as a screwdriver. Number 16. In the original Out of Stock, the Plushtrap Chaser is said to be about 3 feet tall. In the graphic novel, when the Plushtrap Chaser breaks through the door, we see him standing in the doorway. We can see he's about 2/3 of the door height. The height of a door is about 6 feet 8 inches tall, and multiplying that by 2/3 gives us approximately 4 feet 5 inches. That's how tall the Plushtrap Chaser is shown to be in the graphic novel. He's almost as tall as Danny DeVito. He should not be that tall. So the rest of the book are just the long action sequences and stuff, and I didn't find any more details to talk about. So yeah, those are all the interesting details, inconsistencies, and funny things that I found in the Fazbear Frights graphic novel. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think about the Fazbear Frights graphic novel? Do you like it? Are you excited for the future ones? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!